Okay, so welcome to today's lecture on inventory planning and control. So, previous lecture, we look at how we can manage logistics and inventory to ensure we satisfy our demand or the needs of our customers. Um, so today we'll build on that principle and begin to see how we can ensure that we plan and control our inventory to achieve these goals. So in this lecture, we'll look at four main things, how to understand the concept of inventory planning and control, the inventory planning activities, how to forecast demand and determine the order size, how much or how many are we buying, and deciding about buying or selling in our shop. We normally try to keep or get in input and then we sell output. So, and then we decide on the timing to replenish the stock. When we talk about stock replenishment, it's at what point do you need to buy additional stock? Take yourself as an example. That at what point will you call home that, oh, I need money, mommy or daddy, my money is getting finished. My money is almost exhausted. So that is how you look at it. It's basically the concept of replenishment to get something back. At what point are you hungry? Oh, I need to eat. Yeah. So, sorry. Then we look at the other side. So there are a couple of replacement strategies that we'll look at, like fixed interval, fixed point. Yes, I'm going to just talk about it. So fixed interval is when you determine that maybe every 3 months or every month ending, there will be a replenishment. So some of you, you get money from your parents at the end of every month. That's a fixed interval. And it doesn't matter what you buy or what you did not buy. Even if you don't spend anything, you still have a replenishment. That's fixed. So in our stock management, we can decide to have a fixed replenishment every month ending we buy certain quantities, or we can have fixed points. Maybe will you call home when your money gets to, let's say, 100 cities, so it's getting finished. So anytime the money is getting finished, so they can tell you when your money gets to 100 cities, call me so I will send more. That is also another one. So it is not end of the month. It can be every 2 weeks, or it can be this time, maybe 2 weeks time your money is finished already getting to 100 cities, and maybe another time it takes 3 months and you don't even need money. So it can be varied, but it will be at a particular point when you think that, okay, this is the point or the level of the level I need to get more money. Yeah. It's in this how do you call it? In stock management or inventory management, also we such points normally determine as what we call the EOQ, the economic order. No, not the EOQ. How do you call it? The reorder level or reorder point. Okay, reorder level or reorder point. At what point or level do you need to order new things? What you are going to order is what we call the economic order quantity, the EOQ. We'll look at how to determine those things. Then you can also do what we call just in time. That is, you wait when the money is finished, they just ask. It's there are some places, some homes, when you ask for money, it's delivered the same day. So you don't have to say that, okay, mommy, my money or daddy, my money is getting finished. All that you need is, I don't have money now, so money comes in the next few minutes. Even if daddy or mommy is busy, there is someone who will send you money. So those things are there. But if you are from certain homes that it takes 2 weeks for them to look for 100 citizens sent to you, then you have to raise the alarm much earlier. So it depends on so just in time doesn't work for everybody. Yeah. And fixed interval also doesn't work for everybody. Fixed point doesn't work for everybody, but it depends on the circumstances. So that is how we also manage our inventory business. So we'll also be looking at how we can determine the order size and how much. The order size, what I mentioned earlier, is the economic order quantity. And that will have to be determined through a scientific formula we'll look cut later. So inventory planning and control, you see, it's not really too difficult, but it's a lot of work. You need to be thinking about, okay, how much to order at every point in time. So we are looking at the quantity and the time. That's the how much is the quantity and at what time should we place the order. So the major idea or the main theme, the reason for this inventory planning control is to make sure we avoid overstocking or stock out. Overstocking is when you have too much inventory in stock, and then stock out is when you have very little or none in stock. That's not really good. We discussed it in the previous lecture, how you feel when you enter a shop. Okay, I want to buy this. Oh, we don't have. Sorry. Oh, I want to buy it. Oh, we don't have. Sorry. No. Or you go to places and there's much of something. By the time you see, oh, this is expired. This is expired. It means you probably have overstock. So some of these risks are there to lose your customer or get inventory obsolete when you have too much or too little. So you need to make sure that's what we call the optimum level of inventory. So you could see in the picture there how this place is really arranged. I wish this person could help me arrange my space. My space is too scattered with so many things, just drop things. This is a very neat, this is a warehouse, huh? Yeah. I would love to, or maybe a store or something. Yeah, this is a very organized environment. Yeah. I know ladies are normally more organized than guys. So maybe one of these days we need to have a lecture from the ladies to show us how to put things in order so that our rooms could also look as neat as this one. Yeah, so let's move on. Why do we really need to plan and control inventory? Because we need to make sure materials and products are available whenever we need it for production or when we need it for sales. So we must make sure it's always there. And also we need to minimize, or we want to minimize our holding and ordering costs. What is a holding cost? We'll discuss all these things in detail later in this lecture, but I'll just explain a bit. So holding costs, I will say when the goods have arrived, the cost of keeping them, if they are fruits or vegetable, you need to be maybe cooling, refrigerating or whatever, or if they have to be warm, if they have to be kept in a warehouse. So the cost. Then ordering cost is when you are trying to get orders, right? It will include the cost of transporting, the cost of making the call, going to visit the people, any cost that is incurred in getting the goods or materials in your store becomes part of the ordering cost. So it's part of the cost that we'll have to incur to bring the order. That's why we call it ordering cost. Then another objective is to optimize inventory turnover. That is to ensure that we have stock to give out, or we have inventory to give out to our customers or for production purposes without delay. And also need to improve cash flow and working capital. Why is this important? So cash flow or working capital involve the amount of money that we have at every point in time. We need money to pay employees or workers. We need money to buy items. We need money to pay utilities. We need money to pay tax. So we pay for so many things. But if you use all the money to buy inventory or materials, then you may not have money to do other things. So cash flow, you can be cash trapped. Okay, if you are cash trapped, then it means that you become illiquid. So there's something we call liquidity in accounting, making sure you have money. Imagine you have 500 cedis to spend for this month of January 2026. And then before you realize, you've gone to buy items, maybe water, food items, everything worth 400 cedis already. And those food items can take you for up to maybe end of the semester, which will be somewhere March ending. And fine, it's good. But by next week, then you don't have money. Assume that your parents will send you money once every month. So you have to wait till February. So what will happen is that you have locked up the money you have spent this month in the things you bought. So how are you going to have money for transportation, for other things you want to buy, your utilities? So you see, you don't want to lock up too much money in items you buy so that you don't have money to spend. Otherwise, you may have to be going for loan that will be expensive, or maybe your friends still don't have money to give you. So you need to do proper planning. And the same issues happen with businesses. We need to make sure we do proper planning of our resources. And finally, the idea is that we want to mitigate risk of stock out and excess inventory. We don't want to have a situation where we are completely out of stock, or we have too much that can expire. I know most of these things, the inventory or the goods that we have, they expire. So if you have too much also, they can also expire. So there are several reasons or objectives that guide our decision to decide when to order what. And basically that is a thrust of this lecture. So let's look at the concept of demand forecasting and then reorder point. So demand forecasting is basically anticipating in future how much of your inventory or particular good that you need in stock, or how much will your customers be buying, so that you can also plan to produce that much. Remember, we talk about obsolescence, expiring, goods or your products expiring. So if you have too much, if you don't forecast and you produce too much and they don't buy, or they can either expire, or in other words, if you do not provide adequate funding for goods to be bought so that you can produce and satisfy demand in future, you can have stock out, and your customers will leave you for another customer. So basically, we need to make sure we forecast demand properly. How much of our goods people would want to buy in future? That is the forecasting. So anticipating how much they will buy so that we can produce that much in store for them. There are certain tools that we use, like moving average, exponential smoothing, and then regression analysis, normally mathematical formulas that you can easily use now with a spreadsheet, with IT tools that you can learn and see how it works. And you can also use AI systems. Some certain AI systems are able to, they have embedded some of these tools in it for you. So these are things that you need to learn. And then reorder point is the level at which you want to order new product. That can be done, or that can be arrived at as your daily demand, the average daily demand. So let's say today you sold 15 pieces, tomorrow 35 pieces, the next day you threw 10 CDs. So you need to strike an average. Maybe that leads to about 20. So you look at the average daily demand over time. You can maybe do average daily demand over a month. Last month, maybe 30 days or 31 days in December. If you add all of them divided by the number of days, maybe like 31, and then whatever figure you get becomes your average daily demand, and then times the lead time. How long does it take when you order something for them to deliver? I told you, some of us are at home. When we ask for money, it takes about 3 weeks, sometimes 1 month, for them to send us just 100 cities. So if your lead time is long, like 3 weeks, you have to make sure your reorder level is really longer. But if someone lead time, if someone's lead time is just 30 minutes, then that person can have a luxury of waiting till the last minute. So you multiply your average daily demand times the lead time. Then when you've done that, then you add it to your safety stock level. We'll look at some of these calculations, which are just in the subsequent moments. So let's see. And also, I mentioned economic order quantity, where you also decide how much of stock to order at the point. All right. How will your parent determine how much money they give you? Some people, they give them 20 cedis a month. Some people 200 cedis a month. Some people 500. Some people 1,000. Maybe some people 10,000 cedis a month to blow. So it depends. But how do they arrive at this? And how would you, as a store or inventory manager, also arrive at something like this? You definitely need to ensure that you use this formula, the EOQ formula, which is the square root of 2ds all over h, where your 2 is constant, your D is demand, the S is the ordering cost, and the H is your holding cost. So we'll look at all these calculations in future. And there's another way you can also forecast your demand, what we call the ABC analysis. This, if you start in lecture 1, the ABC, high value items, the B for moderate value, and then the C for low value. So you may need to prioritize maybe high value items over the moderate or low and all that. So look at how it works. So when we talk about demand forecasting in the supply chain, it basically talks about how do we project, okay, what people will buy or how much of inventory or raw materials we need for production purposes. And if we do that, we can do it through historical data. I want to talk about historical data. We look at maybe last year or over the past, how much did we demand? We can even use under historical data, we can use what we call time series. So you look at every year in January, maybe the demand is very high. So we are going to have the best demand maybe in January, depending on your product, or the worst demand in January. So January, if it is normally high in January, then this year you can use the same. Okay, last year we sold maybe 2,000 units of items. So this January, we have to make sure we have about 2,000 units of items again. And if last year we sold only 200 for January, what really happened last year is coming from the word history. Okay, history, so historical. And then market trends can also tell you about what's happening now. That also calls for some research to know, well, we realize that the demand for maybe vegetables are increasing, so we need to increase the vegetables in our store. Or maybe the demand for salt is reducing, maybe, so we need to make sure we don't buy too much salt. So these are market trends, how the market is going. You can also check from other stores or generally from market data or market research you can conduct, and you can see the trend where tastes and preferences are moving toward. Then we can also do what we call predictive analytics, and also more of a quantitative formula. Then that you can also help to predict. So the predictive analytics would normally combine historical data with market trends. Then they can predict the future. Well, last year it was like this, but there are some things that have changed. So we are not just going to use historical data, raw, but maybe last year student population was maybe 30,000. This year it has increased to 40,000. So we predict that the demand for buses will be higher than last year. So we need to get maybe 2 more buses on campus. These are some of the things you can usually use, tech tools you can use to forecast demand. So there are 2 things. Remember, we talked about the right things yesterday. 5 rights, 7 right. Today we focus more on 2 rights, which we have seen already: the right time and the right quantity. The right quantity, right time. That is basically what we look for when we talk about demand forecasting or inventory timing. The right quantity, the right time. Keep it in mind. Yeah. So importance of forecasting in a supply chain. It helps us to make sure we have materials for production, so that we may not be out of stock, and then we may also need to ensure that we have adequate finished goods for sales. We also need to make sure we don't block too much of the capital in store, because we have bought too much and are keeping too much inventory, or we are losing money because we don't have adequate goods or inventory to sell. Yeah, so there are methods of forecasting. We've looked at a couple of them earlier. They can be grouped generally into three main. Remember, I mentioned time series earlier. So the first one is qualitative. Qualitative forecasting method is basically subjective and relies on judgment, opinion. Okay, from what we are seeing, let's add more inventory. Let's have less. Okay, so you look at certain things. The store or the CEO can just say, okay, let's try to do this without any let's say objective calculation, because sometimes you just don't have data, so you just deal with intuition. How many people attend the funeral, the festival, for example, so that you know how much bottle of water. Sometimes you can try to use maybe time series, past data, and all that, but sometimes it may be difficult. Yeah, so sometimes you can just observe and say that this year maybe some things um you may want to just have more. So yeah, it is done. But it's not very scientific. Even though people will say, okay, people may have experience in it and managing certain events, so they may tell you that um you can be able to uh get certain things right through qualitative analysis. When it comes to forecasting, qualitative techniques are not entirely reliable. There are some that work much more scientific way. The time series, as I mentioned. So we are looking at similar time in the past. Last year at the festival, we supplied 10 bags of water. So this year, let's do 10 or 11 and see, maybe it will be more. Then causal. Causal is predicting demand. Sorry, let me just take water a minute. Yeah. So causal is when you are predicting demand uh, based on certain things that are happening. Last year, we sold 10 bags of water at the festival, but this year, we will sell 15 because I hear there are more people coming to the for the sorry festival, and uh, there will be more of those people coming, maybe to stay for maybe old school reunion. So they will stay longer and then they will spend money. So there are so many things. So the cause are something will cause something to or something that will influence demand, basically. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Then we can also have what we call controllability of demand. Demand is not really a controllable factor. You cannot really determine how much people buy. They determine it. So you have to be able to understand when they are ready to buy something and when they are not. That is, so you are actually trying to understand and study them. So it is easier for you to determine the demand for product that you have been selling over the years. But when you have a new product, it will be difficult because you don't even know how large is your new adopter community and how many people buy. But with time, new products, you are able to determine the demand for them. So demand can be demand patterns can be random, stable, or seasonal. When we talk about the random, or let's start with constants. The constant one means that demand is straight line. Even though in practice we cannot have a completely straight line, but maybe the deviation might not be too much. So demand is really like maybe you're selling 100, 110, 90, 100. So they are all on the average, they are just around 100. So it's not really like fluctuating that much. Then that's the constant demand. Then we have a demand that is like a trend. So you can be able to tell either it is straight, increasing or decreasing. There's a trend. So it can be increasing, decreasing, or straight. So you can observe a particular trend, all right? We have seen that sales are increasing gradually, maybe by 10%, or all of a sudden our sales are reducing. It means that maybe demand for this particular product line is reducing, so we need to change something about it. Then seasonal demand, that tells you sometimes demand for certain items will increase in certain months or certain periods and reduce at a certain time. Like we don't have winter in Ghana, but maybe what kind of seasons we have? The Harmattan and the rainy. Yeah, let's take the rainy season. So the demand for uh, uh, umbrellas, for example, can be seasonal because the times that during dry season, no one is walking to a shop to buy umbrellas, and umbrellas can easily get missing. So maybe next rainy season, umbrellas, people will buy more umbrellas again. So there's some months that you don't even sell one single umbrella, and there's some months you sell thousands. So these are items that have seasonal demand. And then there is one which is sporadic or fluctuating. So sometimes it goes up and suddenly it comes down. You cannot tell. You cannot really predict this kind of demand. So sometimes it goes up. You have to be careful that you are able to meet demand, but not expanding capacity so much that after 2 weeks, the demand comes down again and you have too much excess capacity. You need to balance it. Yeah. So that is going to be one of the things we are going to do today as the follow-up to yesterday's assignment. We are going to go into the groups again. Then we will determine what kind of demand our product is likely to face. You can select one or two or three or four, or how each of them will influence your the product that you started discussing yesterday. We'll get there. So these are other figures to talk about seasonal fluctuations, random, and then the trend kind of thing. So the trend, you see that is more of kind of a straight line going up or down. So it can keep increasing and then all of a sudden it can keep reducing and then, yeah. But fluctuating, it goes or random, it just goes up and down without control, you know. And seasonal is some months you see that naturally it is high and then sometimes it is down, sometimes it's up. So this is how it works. So how do we manage their demand patterns, each of them? If it is like a trend, if you say a particular trend, we need to make sure we ensure that we supply the goods to meet the trend. If it's increasing, if demand is increasing by 10%, you also have to increase your production by 10%, basically. Yeah. And if the seasonal, make sure bad seasons or seasons that have low sales, you don't keep too much stock. Otherwise, they will expire. And then seasons that you have higher sales, make sure you have more. And then random. So you need to actually predict the seasons that we are entering the rainy season. So I need to buy more umbrellas. Okay. Or we are entering the dry season. So maybe we will sell more water because people will need more water during the dry season. So you need to predict that. So you don't get to that season before you're now thinking of how to produce, but you produce to meet the seasonal demand. Random, yes, you have to be careful. Just provide some buffer stock that in case it goes up, you can use that one and then quickly you can replenish. So you need to be very smart in replenishing stock during the random demand seasons. Sometimes, yeah, you can just not tell. So there can be stock outs that you cannot predict, but make sure you are able to replenish stock quickly so that customers don't look for alternative supply sources. Then sometimes demand can be stable. It's fine. Then that one you can easily predict and then make sure you satisfy your customers. So continuation of last assignment, you're going to have another breakout session for like 15 minutes. And then we'll come back, have a short discussion, then we end. we want to determine the possible trends for the product, commodity, or service. We have discussed that already. Not the trend per se, the possible demand. So let's look at the demand pattern, not a trend. Let's determine the demand pattern. Okay, demand pattern. So I am going to I'm going to start the breakout session. I would not group you today. I would just allow you to choose the group that you were in yesterday. Remember your group numbers. So just go and click on that group and go in so that you can continue because your records are there. If you have not, if you were not here yesterday, so you do not belong to any group, please, I'll create group 21. I think yesterday we had up to group 20, right? Do you have group 21 already? No.
No, it was 20. Yeah, I
Up to
guess.
20, yeah? Okay. So
No, please, it was up to 20.
Okay, so I'll create group 21. If you were not here yesterday, please go to group 21. Then I'll give you instruction of what to do. If you're not here yesterday. If you're here yesterday, all those who were here yesterday, join your groups again. Remember your group numbers, and then you go into it. So we're going to start the breakout session in a moment. So you're starting now. Do that quickly, okay? How are you going to do this? So just brainstorm. Okay, maybe if you're thinking about an ice cream business, will it be seasonal? Will it be constant? Will it be demand? For example, ice cream during the dry weather, people like more ice cream and water. So just check or just justify it. You are going to add it to your assignment. I was going to take the assignment today, but because we are going to continue, you add this to it also before you print a new copy, and then I'll have them next week. I like the innovation. You have created some LOSAP links so you can talk to your group members. Yeah, do that quickly. And then next week we can submit the assignment. So please, do you understand the assignment before we start the breakout session?
No, sir. Sir, please come again with the assignment.